meeting on May 20th, 2019, and from our work session on June 3rd, 2019.
I move to approve the regular meeting minutes and the work session minutes.
I'd second that.
Mr. Chambers? Discussion, board discussion. Hearing none, Mr. Chambers.
Yes, Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst. Mr.
Aye.
Skidmore.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore. Thank you. And Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Thank you.
Are there any additions, removals, or modifications to our agenda this evening?
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Chambers, I don't know if that one change to the minutes was made. It was made? Okay.
Good evening. We've been hard at work already preparing for the 1920 school year. You think things would settle off a little bit as we wish our students and our staff a good summer, but it's actually been quite the opposite. We've got lots of great things happening, and I want to share some of those with you this evening. I'd like to start by inviting Milt Place, our cross-country coach, up. He is coordinating a guest speaker to come in August for our students, our athletes, and our coaches.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. We're in for a real treat in August. I have my college coach and one of the world's greatest distance runners coming to Medina. This will be the second time he's been here. In 2015, he spoke in August. It was a 2-day clinic. And at the free speech on Thursday night of that clinic, he spoke to around 600 people in the Performing Arts Center, and he spoke for 70 minutes with no notes. The interesting thing is, toward the end of November this year, he'll be 90 years old. And I couldn't get him before then because in July, he's going on a vacation with his wife to Europe, visiting a lot of different places and giving several clinics and also while he's doing that. But he's shown his other things that he's going to see to keep his wife happy, I think. So anyways, I'm going to show a video pretty soon of him, but he's written a great book, Road to the Top. On the front of it, it shows his athletes finishing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the national meet in cross country in 1992. That's 15 points. That's a perfect score at a national meet. And they are all from the United States. He was featured in a book called Born to Run, a bestseller, and there's about 4 chapters just on Coach Vigil in here. Here's a picture of him in 2006. We were in a clinic at Colorado Springs, and he's still as sharp as a tack. And then another book where he's featured is Let Your Mind Run, and it's a biography of Dina Casters, and she won the bronze medal in the 2004 Olympics in Athens, Greece, and they programmed it so well, he and her and the team who was assisting her, that there was hardly any way she could fail if her mind was where it needed to be. They left no stone unturned. I'd like to talk to you about that sometime if you're really interested, but not now. If you'd start rolling the tape, this is a bronze medal statue ceremony in Alamosa, Colorado, 2010, and he is a spellbinding speaker.
I wanted to bring the best Talamosa that I possibly could. Not only as a result of the Olympic Committee, but as I went out, I saw where we had everything here in the valley that they had any place else in the world. Family, colleagues, the Dean of Distance Running, often introduced as the greatest distance running coach in the world, Coach Jovial. I'm reminded of that great adventurer, Christopher Columbus, when he set sail from the shores of Cadiz, the old capital of Spain, to come to the New World. He didn't really know where he was going. When he got there, he didn't know where he was. When he got back, he didn't know where he'd been. That's the way I started coaching. I didn't know where I was going.
Well, it's remarkable. It's just remarkable to see the impact that Coach Vigil has had on a lot of lives. You know, I thought about the impact he's had on my life, and everything I'd done in my life, I always come back to those 4 years that I spent with Coach Vigil.
It was just wonderful to come back into the San Luis Valley, and specifically here at Adams State, and honor such a decorated man, and someone that has contributed so much to the community here and the world beyond. So to honor Coach Vigil tonight, to have such a star-studded field in attendance was really special to be a part of. It was very touching and warm, funny at times, and just a really nice way to honor such a great man.
The credit for these accomplishments that you've heard here truly belongs to the athlete. It was their energy, their effort, and their trust in me. All I did was try to get into their mind and into their heart.
Tonight's event was a great manifestation of Coach Vigil and what he represents, not only to this school, to this college, to this San Luis Valley, but also his role as a great coach representing the United States of America, two-time Olympic coach, many-time coach of world championship teams, and in my opinion, an exceptional ambassador of goodwill around the world.
I'll finish up in 2015 when I found out that, or I knew he'd be coming here, and I told some other people. Taryn Collins, who was on our cross-country team at the time, she said she'd been at a clinic, a camp where he had been the year before. So I said, Taryn, did it get real quiet when he started talking? And she said, no, it got real quiet when he came into the room. And he stands about this tall, and he still has that presence. I imagine it's like that with football coaches we've all heard of, like Nick Saban, Vince Lombardi, and so on. But for athletics, which is what track and field is called in the rest of the world, he truly is a giant. And one other one I want to mention, when I checked him into the hotel here in Medina that year, we went up to his room, he checked in, I came back down, and the lady behind the desk said, he's so important, isn't he? And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. So thank you.
Thanks, Milt. I know a couple of my running friends went to your briefing, or went to his briefing a couple years ago, and they thought it was phenomenal, so I anticipate it'll be pretty well attended this year as well.
I talked to him this morning, and he said he's studying neuroplasticity of the brain right now. It's been a major focus of his relates to aerobic running. And also, he said, make sure you tell the crowd tonight that I was an Eagle Scout.
Can I just add that I was at that 2015 event, and it gave me goosebumps. It was really good. I'm hoping that we can encourage our teams, our coaches, and the community to come out. If there were 600 there, I hope we can at least double that this year. He's not going to be here forever, right? It's a tremendous opportunity, and it's more than just the athletic part. It's about life. So it's a real treat. Thank you for putting that together.
Coach, real quick, the date on here is August 16th. Can you remind everyone what time it starts?
There's a clinic during the day, but the free speech to the public's at 7 o'clock that night. And I won't guarantee it, but he may speak without notes. He does that all the time.
Thank you.
All right, 7 o'clock at the PAC. 7 o'clock at the PAC. Okay.
And Coach, the clinic, is that just for like the running teams, or can our athletics?
It's for coaches and runners from Medina plus other schools. I know several coaches who are bringing their entire teams. We're getting them a cut rate deal. You're probably all familiar with Final Forms. Well, Clay Burnett is the co-founder of that. He's the coach at Chagrin Falls High School. He's donating $1,000 and also the hotel expenses there, because Vigil met with him for 90 minutes in 2015 and mapped out a personal 18-month planning schedule for him. And he says, this is my way of paying back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's pretty neat to see the opportunities that our coaches are going to have, and just in part of the speech that was playing in the video, where Dr. Weigel mentioned I get into their minds and their hearts, and I think that's such a big part of athletics, and even bigger than wins and losses at our level of athletics. Thank you, Milt. As we discussed at our last work session, tonight I'd like to recommend to the Board of Education to do a lease agreement in order to put GPS systems within all of our school buses. I think most people are pretty familiar with GPS. I know we're constantly using them on our phones as well as in our cars. But it's going to be a huge benefit for the safety and security of our students. It'll give our transportation department the ability to get fairly immediate feedback as to where all of our buses are at any given time, and that's even outside of our area. This is important in case there were ever, God forbid, an accident or an issue on the bus. If the bus driver wasn't able to communicate, we would know that the bus was forced to stop for a period of time, and we'd also be able to locate that bus's location to the authorities. I think a really nice feature that our parents are going to enjoy is there is an app that parents can download and sign up for that's going to allow parents to somewhat track their children's bus as well. So they can set up notifications so that they know when their bus is getting close to their pickup site. This is going to be extremely helpful when we're looking at that bad weather, whether it's rain or snow. And again, that plays into a piece of keeping our students safe as well as they're waiting out there for the bus to arrive. I want to thank Rob Travis and his efforts in making this happen. He is one of the biggest proponents I've met of bus safety and transportation safety for students. So what Rob does, it goes way beyond just trying to coordinate the buses and getting students home safely, but it's looking at ways that we can promote to even expand that safety. An example of that is the busing campaign that he worked with Amy Busby to set up at the end of the school year, and I know it's going to be carrying into next year. Stop for Big Yellow, and this plays into that in terms of the safety of our students. We are going to be one of the first districts in the area to have this level of technology on our buses, and I think that's something to be proud of. I also think it's important to point out that Rob is utilizing money within his current transportation budget in order to make this initiative happen, pending your approval this evening. Rob's here tonight, even though he didn't have to be. So if any of you have any questions, I know he had a pretty thorough presentation regarding the GPS system at our last work session. Pay to participate fees. Actually, I'm going to kind of combine the next few items together, pay to participate fees as well as personnel updates. And I think it's important to first say why I'm even talking about these items. Because pay to participate fees and some of the personnel updates are not directly within our strategic plan. And I know that's something that I'm constantly hammering home when I talk to people. Is it in our strategic plan? And the reason why I hammer that home is twofold. First of all, that plan was put together in collaboration with our staff, our students, and our parents and community. So it's essential that we meet all of the goals within that plan. The second piece is that we actually developed a budget and worked into the 5-year forecast, the finances to support that plan. So when something needs to be done or implemented financially that's outside that plan, we really have to take a hard look to make sure it fits within the finances. We are getting ready to enter year 3 of the strategic plan. It was important at the end of this past school year that we sit down and not only go over what we have done with the strategic plan, but also how we've been doing financially with the implementation of the strategic plan. And I'm happy to say, I'm not going to go through it tonight because we did a community presentation, which can be accessed on our website and our YouTube district page just a few weeks ago. But what we determined is that we are making good progress in implementing our goals within the strategic plan. That doesn't mean we don't still have work to do. We still have 3 years of the plan to continue. But with the implementations that we've made thus far, we've been very fiscally responsible in doing that. And we are actually quite a bit under budget to what we had originally budgeted for the first part of the strategic plan. And that's looking at things like the implementation of all-day kindergarten, the addition of academic coaches across the district, the addition of new academic electives and opportunities, the implementation of IB, inquiry-based learning, as well as makerspaces, which are going to be across the district, except the high school we're still working on for the next school year, which is actually ahead of schedule. So what I wanted to do is take a look at our district as a whole and assess some things that I've seen over the course of my last 3 years with Medina City Schools, and some areas where we could use some extra support. Our motto this past school year has been moving Medina forward, and that was a carryover from our levy campaign. With that, we always have every student every day. And those are two things that we take very seriously in meeting. And as administrators and as a district, we not only need to assess what the community and the staff is asking for, but we also need to assess what's best for the regular operation of our district, as well as the students and families in our community. So looking at our budget, I talked to Mr. Chambers about reallocating some of those funds that we were able to save in the first years of the strategic plan. And the next few things I'm going to talk about are the areas where we intend to proceed in order to fill some other gaps. And the first is pay to participate fees. And pay to participate fees did come up during our strategic planning process, but it wasn't a top concern. When we went into the process a couple years ago, I think there was a greater concern amongst the community and staff about where we were in terms of academics. So you see a very heavy academic focus within the strategic plan. I do think it's something that we need to address. I'm not going to get into statistics today about students that are involved in extracurriculars, athletics, music, and their achievement in school, but there's definitely a relation between those participation and success. And I know since I've been with the district, we've had several board members who have repeatedly expressed concern about pay to participate fees, as well as ensuring that all students have an opportunity to participate. We've been very fortunate that we have a lot of outside financial support for students that have struggled with pay to participate fees, especially through our athletic boosters. They offer scholarships through the athletic department, and just recently, I think as of this year, our foundation has been offering some scholarships to families at need as well. What we're not ready to do is eliminate pay to participate fees. We currently collect about $500,000 a year that supports our athletic programs, and to completely eliminate those fees in one foul swoop would be a huge financial burden on the district and the athletic programming that we're able to offer. So what we wanted to look at are ways that we could increase support to our families to ensure that all of our students have an opportunity to participate. The first thing that we looked at was a family cap. And what I would like to recommend to the Board of Education, not tonight, but at an upcoming board meeting before we reach next school year, so it can be implemented for fall sports, I'd like to recommend a family cap. We're still working through what a family cap would look like. We have pulled information from surrounding districts. Most districts in our area do have some sort of pay to participate fee. Some, like Buckeye, are very similar to ours. Others are less than ours. Almost all of them have some sort of family cap in place. So this is going to benefit families that have multiple students playing multiple sports. We do currently have a student cap. If a student participates in 2 sports, or if the family or the individual student gets the 3rd sport for free, so it's approximately a $660 cap at the high school level. What we're throwing around is about a $900, $990 cap. So it would be 3 sports per family. Where right now, if a family has 2 students that are in 2 sports, they're paying for 4 sports, and this would limit that down to 3. The other piece that was really vital for us to look at is our students that really do not have the financial resources to pay the pay to participate fees. And the way other districts identify those students is through their free and reduced lunch program. I anticipate it will be a situation where families, because that's confidential, where families will have to approach our athletic department and let them know that they are on the free lunch program. And my recommendation is going to be to waive the fees for those families. That's similar to what we do for other school fees for students on free lunches. What that will allow, our scholarship programs that our booster programs and our foundation have put together are still going to be a vital part of what we do, but it's going to allow, it should allow for those monies to be more widely dispersed, since we would be waiving the fees for the students on the free lunch. I do hope to someday make a recommendation to decrease the pay to participate fees. I think it's something important that we look at. We still have more work to do with our academics and curriculum as we move through this strategic plan. But I think the timing within the next 2 or 3 years, especially as we're looking towards the future financial needs, that would be a good time to really explore our general rates in depth. Any questions or comments from the board in terms of pay to participate fees?
Just want to say thank you for the work that you've done, and I know it's not an easy thing when you're asked to possibly give up potential revenue. And I know you've worked really hard to do that, so I'm appreciative of that, and look forward to see where this goes. Thank you.
The second piece is a personnel update, and there's several pieces to this. The first I want to talk about is our middle schools, and I think some of our parents do know that we've been spending quite a bit of time over the course of the past 2 years looking into teaming at our middle schools. It's something that we had in place before we had drastic budgetary cuts. The passion from our middle school teachers in terms of the teaming model is truly impressive. And I've told our teaming committee before that it's a situation where how can we not do it because it's not going to fail, because of the passion that our teachers have for that model. And it creates smaller groups at the middle school, more individuality in terms of meeting student needs. It also allows for teachers to work together to meet student needs and ensure that they are on the same page. I'm not ready to make a recommendation to move to actually do teaming because we need to take more time to plan. It's a big transition, and one thing that's important to me is that we're not just throwing in the model we used to do. So we are spending further time researching and doing professional development with our staff this school year. They're going to be visiting surrounding schools who have a teaming model in place, and we want one that fits Medina City schools now, not one that was in place 10 years ago. So what we've worked into the budget, we've worked teaming into the budget beginning with the 2020-21 school year. Again, that's not something set in stone because we got more work to do, and the other big thing hanging out there is the redistricting, which we've talked about many times, which could have an impact on what that potential teaming model looks like. The next piece of this plan is within the curriculum department. We serve almost 7,000 students, I think about 6,800 students. And I think we've done a very good job in doing that. I'm proud to say, and Tina told me this just a week ago, the last 3 years our scores have gone up every year. So we're seeing academic improvement with the implementation of the changes that we've made through the strategic plan, and more importantly through our curriculum department. And of course, the ultimate piece of that is our teachers and their ability to make the adjustments in the classrooms. In serving 6,800 students, I think it's a lot to ask within our curriculum department with only 2 administrators overseeing things. We have made other adjustments in the district to meet district needs. For instance, a year or 2 ago, we implemented the curriculum development coordinator positions across the district, and those are teachers in leadership roles for the implementation of curriculum, which at the time I thought was more important than adding another administrator because we want our teachers to be involved in that process, and if they're not, it's not going to be successful because they're the ones actually doing it on a day in and day out basis. In addition to that, per the strategic plan, we've also implemented some coaching positions. Those are academic coaches. We've got 2 down at the elementary level in language arts and 1 in math, and then we have 1 in math up at the secondary level. And those have been very valuable positions because they're actually in the classrooms doing on-site during the day training with teachers. And what better way to learn than by doing? Rather than sitting in an out-of-hours training. The other thing that we had in our strategic plan is to hire an IB, inquiry-based coordinator for the district. And to me, in looking at the big picture of our district, I think we'd be better served by adding an additional assistant curriculum director or curriculum director of instructions. Currently, Matt Matty serves in that role, and the way the department is set up is that, yes, they collaborate across all grade levels, but Matt's main responsibilities for the middle and high school levels. Tina has overseen the elementary position buildings, which we have 7 of them in the district, plus Evolve Academy. And at the same time, I've asked her to take on the responsibility of director of the entire district. I intend to recommend an additional assistant curriculum director that put 3 administrators in that department, and that additional person would oversee the lower levels. What I've told Tina is that as the director of curriculum for the district, she's responsible for overseeing the inquiry-based learning, and she said, of course. So we were able to shift some funds in terms of that position to limit the cost. The second piece is within our pupil services department. I know the board knows how hard we work to service the needs of all of our students. And I do think it's important for me to point out that you hear pupil services, and a lot of times people just think special education, but they're not called the special education department. They're called the pupil services department because they provide service for all students across the district. Again, it's another situation where we're trying to serve a large population of students with a limited amount of leadership. Mina, I have to commend her. This is her 2nd year in the district, and she's really worked to make a lot of adjustments within the pupil services department. This is the natural next step, and to me, that is adding an administrator, not another assistant, but a coordinator of special education who would work under Rhonda, who is our assistant in the department. That individual would be more of a boots on the ground kind of position, to be in the buildings providing supports to intervention specialists and regular education teachers on anything to do with special education, whether it's the implementation, the writing of an IEP, the collection of data. It's important that we get that right so that all of our students are able to get a fair education. And the last position that I want to talk about is an assistant athletic director. This is a position that did once exist in the district. I think it's been quite a while since that has been in place. I've already talked about the importance of athletics. I think Milt's presentation on the guest speaker and the impact that this coach has had on his athletes is timely, because that leadership extends beyond our coaches and goes into the administration that's overseeing all the programs and the coaches that are within those programs. Todd works many hours. He probably works about some of the highest hours in the district, not only in coordination, but also actually being at the events. Where we have been struggling is with the middle school level. The intent would be for the assistant AD to really oversee middle school athletics. Ideally, middle school athletics should be intertwined with the high school. And that hasn't always been the case in our district, and it's just because of the lack of time to coordinate that. This would allow for that consistency. And I'd say in our district, it's even a bigger challenge because we have 2 middle schools with 2 sets of athletic programs. They would work on evaluating coaches. They would work on developing schedules. We currently do have supplemental contracts which middle school teachers hold. There's one throughout the year at both middle schools, and that's a teacher who plays a leadership role in trying to direct the athletics. So a lot of those responsibilities would be shifted over to the assistant athletic director. However, there's still a need for those positions because the amount of athletics that we have going on, we need site supervisors. And whether we kept those supplemental contracts or whether we paid somebody an hourly or flat rate, we would still need those positions. So I think it's appropriate to still keep those in place. And quite honestly, I'd rather have one of our teachers serving as a site supervisor than pulling somebody from the outside. And I think I've covered it all. I want to take a quick look at my notes here just to make sure. I do want to make sure that our visitors from the press, that we do have a press release that we're going to provide you on this, as well as on the GPS systems. Those are going to be emailed to you by Amy Busby after this meeting. We want to make sure you have all of the factual information. And for anybody in the community or the board, my door is open, and I'd love to have open conversations. To be straightforward, I know anytime you talk about administrative positions or you talk about athletics, it can make people question, which is a good and healthy thing to do. I think I'd be concerned if people didn't. But I want to make sure that we are being accountable and we are sitting down and we're providing the solid rationale for why we're making these decisions, and we're talking about how this improves academics and athletics and the school experience for the students of Medina City. Any questions from the board? The next thing on the agenda is actually going the opposite direction. We need to increase our lunch fees, and we're looking at a quarter increase for the next school year. That's not something I'm recommending tonight. I'm hoping to recommend that at our July meeting, but I wanted to make sure the board was aware of that and had an opportunity to ask questions, whether it's tonight or whether it's prior to the July meeting. We aren't hastily making this decision. We have done research. We are currently charging the lowest prices in the area for lunches. So with the quarter increase, that'll put us in line. It won't put us at top. It'll put us right in line with where surrounding districts are. The reason why this has come up is because we try our best for our food services department to be self-sufficient, as we do with Evolve, which means they cover their own costs, whether it's through food or personnel. And the last couple years, they have come in over budget, which is not uncommon with food services. So we're hoping that this quarter increase will help balance their budget. Lunches are still going to be in the $3 range and below the $3 range, depending on what grade levels that we're at. And then the last item I have for tonight is AP History textbook. And Mr. Maddie?
All right, good evening. Thanks, Mr. Sable. As we continue to expand opportunities for students, we're very excited to be bringing back AP US History. And as a result, we're recommending to the board that we adopt a new textbook called the American Pageant. And we actually were not able to include this with our other textbooks on our list of approvals last month because we were waiting for the updated copyright date. And textbooks are kind of like cars. This is a 2020 copyright. We're in 2019, and they just released the book last month. So again, this is American Pageant US AP US History, and then a couple of supplemental texts documenting United States history as a student reference handbook, and then United States history preparing for the advanced placement examination. Again, another supplemental resource for helping students study for the AP exam. One thing I'd just point out is that you'll notice that we're kind of moving in a direction now where we're buying class sets of textbooks because we are going one-to-one. So you'll notice that we are purchasing bundles of 30 textbooks as a class set, and then for the remaining licenses, there'll be online licenses so students have access at home as well. Just something we're trying to do to be more cost effective in that sense. So with that, any questions?
Matt, is it what did you say, American Passion or American Pageant?
Pageant.
Like beauty pageant? Like,
Yeah.
Like that? Okay.
Yep, the American Pageant.
Pageant, okay. Thank you.
And then, so for the class sets, that would, basically those books, do they stay in the house and they have access to the balance of information online as well?
Correct. Yeah, they stay in the classroom and they're used in class only, and then online access at home for studying and for homework.
With our transition to one-to-one, which the board approved at our last regular meeting, I do want to make sure that I point out that if we do have any students that have limited internet access at home, we're going to be providing the device to get on, but we're going to make sure they have access to materials, even if we need to issue them a book for home.
Right. And we don't have 30 students in the class in one period, so there's extra books that we can send home as well. So, all right. Thank you.
And speak of the devil, the strategic plan, of course, being added back with AP U.S. History, which I think is a great thing. Thank you.
Mr. Chambers.
Thank you. I thought when he was talking about the devil, he was talking about me. So, devil in the strategic, my first thought, wasn't it? So, thank you. We'll talk first about the financial summary of May. The district bank balance decreased $2.4 million in May to $80.62 million. This is $3.3 million below last year at this time. Again, that shows that with our strategic plan, we are spending down the reserves like we spoke to the taxpayers about. General fund revenues were below last May by $2.4 million. Basically, it hit all of our revenue sources here. And the large part was the taxes that were paid last year with the federal tax plan that hit the first half of our school year and has basically kept us below the estimates of last year. Our general fund expenditures were above last May by $3.2 million, and again, it seemed to have hit all of our different types of sources. And this attributes directly to our strategic plan. Sales tax fund is down to $3.2 million. The district spent approximately $474,000 in May. The largest portion was on our COPS interest. If you recall, we have our COP bond paying for both Waite and Northrop at this point. The rec center capital fund balance is up to $601,000. The district received $13,900 from the city in May and spent $11,810. The district has received $145,000 in interest in May. This is the total collection for the current fiscal year is approximately $462,000 above last fiscal year, and approximately we're at 88.6% of the total of the last two fiscal years combined. The district has a general food fund true days cash estimated to be 272 days. This is down from April by 8 days and below last year by 19.9 days. Questions? Okay, I'd like to talk about the year-end permanent appropriations. Your year-end permanent appropriations, if you click on 6/21/19 there you go. Go down 2 pages. Go down 1 page, right there. There you go. The year-end appropriations are $115,568,000. This is roughly $2 million more than the original appropriations that you passed here in September of 17. The reason $2 million, $1.4 million of it is adjustments here that we made at the end of the year. And our county auditor needs to have a certificate of appropriations to them before June 30th, hence the reason I was working until 3 o'clock on Friday to get it to the county auditor before I met with 2 board members here. The reason for $1.4 million adjustment here with our final appropriations, we had $19,800 come in for our our K-12 network. So Ryan could go and spend that on technology. We also made an adjustment with our bond retirement, $247,000 in our bond retirement. This will allow us to make a transfer that you'll see upcoming with the fund-to-fund transfers Basically, the transfer allows us, since we had monies left over in the bond that we paid off, I believe it was 2008 reinvestment bond that we paid off here in December. We had monies left over, and by law, we can move it to any other bond fund. And this will save taxpayers because it means that $247,000 won't have to be collected for it. We also had an increase in our permanent improvement fund of $190,000. This $190,000 is going to the rec center improvement fund. The reason for this is we have the monies there, but we didn't have the appropriations. And with the roof that they're placing on the rec center, a portion is due here now, so we need the funds or the appropriation to go ahead and spend the funds. We also had $1.09 million in our employee benefits account. This is our health account. We fund that account and we spend out of that account. Well, we're spending out this year, but the appropriations were low. We were using last year's appropriations, and so we had to increase it for this year. And the same thing with our workers' comp. We were hit hard with our workers' comp. We have the funds there. We just didn't have the appropriations to spend it. So if you have any questions about the final appropriations?
Mr. Chambers?
Yes.
Can you just remind me what Fund 014 Rotary Internal Services is again, please?
014 Rotary Internal Services is we have our McDack Fund. We also have, I'm sorry, not our McDack. We have our Evolve Fund in there. And there's one more. Yeah, I think it is McDack. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And with the 014, we had a decrease, or sorry, a $29,000 increase for Evolve itself. They spent more monies this year than they had anticipated. So, any other? Okay, thank you. And now for our temporary appropriations. With our temporary appropriations, you'll see that these are comparing this year's temporary appropriations to last year's appropriations. We passed our 18-19 temporary appropriations in May. In June, we're a month later. We have more departments getting back their budgets to us, so that's why you see the general fund increase here. This general fund increase doesn't include an increase in salaries or benefits because that's placed in there by me. Right now, we placed 75% of last year's in there. But the rest of the increase are because departments have turned their budgets back into us. Our bond retirement is down because we paid off the last of the bonds, as spoken before. Our permanent improvements is up because of the rec center. We actually have to put the appropriations out there so we could spend the monies, and then as we're spending the monies, we're going to be billing the city for those funds that we spend out, or for half those funds that we spend out. Don't want to make the city upset with us. For half those funds that we spend out, and then we're going to be spending down as we go. But we have to appropriate for basically the full amount that we have available. What else do we have here? We have, if you notice the food service, your trust funds and your endowment funds. Karen Platts at the high school does a good job. Again, being that we have one more month, she was able to get us their budgets for the upcoming year. Something that looks out of the ordinary, your emergency levy, we're down, but again, that's only because we're at 75% of salaries and benefits in there just to start off the emergency levy. Our employee benefits, told you we were higher this year in our expenditures than last year, and that's reflective in our temporary as well because we are currently using what we had out there for our permanent appropriations for next year. And I believe our sales tax, we're looking at spending more monies for our capital out of the sales tax fund, and that's why you see the increase in those. And then we won't get our title funds until July, possibly August, to give you an idea of when those will be going out there. Any questions? Again, with the temporary appropriations, it's just to allow them to start off the year. We won't have the permanent appropriations till September. Thank you.
Any board communications at this time? Hearing none, I have one, or a couple things. The summer is upon us, and it's anything but a break. I know the staff has been working hard, as you heard from Mr. Sable's communications, working with personnel and with pay to play and all that to make our district better. So I appreciate more than ever the hard work everyone's putting in while the kids are gone to make our school district better. It's much appreciated by not only me, but a lot of people. So thank you for continuing to work over the summer months and to do great things for the district. Recently, just a shout out basically, the school year ended, and with the spring was track season, and we had a coach, Milt, Mr. Van Fleet was the Gazette Spring Coach of the Year for track. So congratulations to Scott Van Fleet. And we also had 2 student athletes, Juliet Keller for the girls, and I think Chris Kelly for the boys. Mike Kelly for the boys. Were both the Gazette Spring athletes, all Gazette Spring athletes. So congratulations to those 2 kids. As you can attest, our track program is one of the best. So thank you for all your hard work, Coach Place, and helping out. And that's all I got.
Hey, Ron, can I add something?
Yes.
We've talked to some of you guys from time to time, and I just wanted to put it out there that November election, there will be 2 spots on the board being voted on. And my spot is going to be an open spot. I'm not going to be applying to run again for next year. I've got some things that I have to take care of, and I wanted to pass that on kind of officially to everybody so that should there be somebody out there wants to find out more about it, they can call me, and I'll be happy to help them along. Or but I just wanted to put it out there that I won't be reapplying for the position at the end of the year. And enough said on that right now. Thank you.
Well, I know we'll have plenty of time to thank Mr. Eastwood for all that he's contributed to the district, but I do want to take a moment to thank you right now because you've done a lot for us, and we still have a half year to go. So we appreciate everything you've done, and you will be missed. Welcome. I also just wanted to mention that Mrs. Pavlik and I attended the curriculum committee update earlier this month and got our first look at the books that are up here and heard about the camp. I can't wait to hear how the enrichment camp ended up that was going on for our middle schoolers. And also, several of the board members attended the final community chat. There was a great slideshow, and there's an online broadcast, and I know it's been mentioned, but I do recommend anyone who was not there or has not viewed it to please get online to the school's website, take a look at that slideshow and the broadcast. And there's also an area where if you have questions, you can submit questions, and those will be answered. Thank you.
On June 19th, Ron and I, Mr. Ross and I, attended the Finance Committee meeting. The committee reviewed the 5-year forecast that we had approved back in May. The community members who sit on the committee, they appreciated and told Dave his ability to put into layman's terms what each page detailed. I believe I mentioned that at May's board meeting as well. Remind the community it's available to the public in board docs. And again, the Finance Committee, we welcome anybody who might have any questions to come and attend. July's meeting will not be held due to scheduling, everybody's schedule, but we will reconvene in August.
Mr. Ross, if there's nothing else, may I recommend that we take a 5-minute break before we go on to the action items, if possible? That's okay?
Sounds good. Just one quick comment before we take this 5-minute break. We will. I too want to comment on Mr. Eastwood's announcement. Doug, you served our board with honor and absolute respect, the level-headed person that you are, and I appreciate everything you've taught me. So, thank you for your service. But like Mrs. Parker said, yeah, we have 6 months. So, all right. And on June 1st, we did host a, Doug and I at the library, we hosted a school board information for the community on boardsmanship, and we did have a lively discussion with the community member for a couple hours, so it's very interesting and worthwhile. So thank you for your help with that as well. And at this time, take a 5-minute break, and we'll reconvene at 7:05. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to reconvene our June 24th regular board meeting. And prior to the break, we were at board communications. I'll just open it up one more time. Any further board communications? Hearing none. Action items from Mr. Chambers.
Yes, if it please the board, item number 1 is it is recommended the Board of Education approve the May 2019 Treasurers Report. Item number 2, we have fund-to-fund transfers. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the following fund-to-fund transfers. You'll notice there are 2 large ones. I spoke about the bond retirement, the 002-0000. We're moving monies to 002-9000. We also spoke about the sales tax. We have monies going to pay for the interest that was due for the COPS fund. The rest of the fund-to-fund transfers are to clean up accounts that are out there within the different buildings. Item number 3, advance of funds. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the following advance of funds. As we spoke about the food service, it's proper that we talk about the advance of funds. If you look down at item number 4, food service department's returning an advance that we gave them last year of $170,900. This year we're going a little bit higher, $289,540. Angie in the food service department has told me that she is anticipating $100,000 coming in from the federal government, the state government, through the federal government or whatnot, for the last filing that she did with the state. The state has, in its infinite wisdom, told her that you had to file by the 11th of June in order to receive the monies. And she looked online and they did not process her filing as of yet. So those monies will probably come in early July, hence the reason we need the advance for her, or the increased advance for her. The rest of those funds, the JDC, they bill the other school districts in the county that use the JDC. Those billings went out, I believe, last Monday. So we have not gotten funds back from those from the other school districts as of yet. So we're just looking to keep that in the black for the end of the year because, our auditors like numbers in the black and not in the red. The rest of those, the federal funds, we have to run the federal funds in the negative because it's a reimbursement through the state. So we are just giving an advance to them when we get the monies back in from the state, then we'll return those advances as we have in the past. Item number 4 is return of advance, which I spoke about. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the following return of advance of funds from food service to the general fund. Item number 5, final appropriations for the 18-19 school year. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the final appropriations. And item number 6, temporary appropriations for the 19-20 school year. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the following temporary appropriations. Questions? Thank you.
Can I get a motion to approve the treasurer's action items?
I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer action items.
I'll second.
Board discussion? Hearing none. Any members of the community would like to come down and comment on the treasurer's action items? Seeing none. Mr. Chambers.
Ms. Pavlik?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood?
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore? Aye. Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Thank you.
First item tonight is donations. As usual, you see a slew of donations. I do want to point out how many of those are for end of the year food. In addition, we have a donation to the food bank, to Cups Cafe from the Beehive Cafe at Medina High School, and that's to support a food bank project that they're putting in place for high school students. Class of 2019, it's up to you guys. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the list of seniors of the class of 2019 who have fulfilled and met all of the requirements for the state of Ohio and the Medina City Schools for graduation. And your affirmative on this tonight will make all of these students and families very happy because they'll be official graduates. Number 3, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the resolution for membership in the Alliance for High Quality Education for the 1920 school year. This is an organization that we've taken part in for the past 3 to 4 years, and they're a big help with us working to advocate for high performing and districts that are considered wealthier districts as we are down in Columbus, and I do serve on 2 of their committees. Number 4 is a resolution for transportation for the 1920 school year, and this is an annual recommendation. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the transportation resolution, which deems students from non-public schools and students living outside the non-public school attendance area as ineligible for transportation for the 1920 school year. Number 5 is textbook. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the attached textbooks for public preview. So this is not for adoption. This is for the preview period, with the intent to recommend for adoption at the July 2019 meeting. And again, this is the books for AP American History that were presented tonight. Number 6, it is recommended that the Board of Education review for the second time with possible adoption the following revised bylaw. This bylaw is just updating the name of our school district. Number 7, it is recommended that the Board of Education enter into a 5-year lease agreement with Synovia Solutions for GPS services on school buses in the amount of $3,276 per month. I think it's important to mention, as I believe was mentioned at the work session, that it makes financial sense for us to go into a lease agreement rather than a purchase, simply with how fast these electronic devices are advancing. It would cost us more to straight out buy them and then have to replace them. So a lease ensures that they're constantly updated and we're getting the latest equipment. Number 8 is service agreements. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreements for the 1920 school year. I want to point out that the landscaping for Waite Elementary School, we were very fortunate to have the Waite family donate money in order to make this happen. They're very supportive of Waite Elementary School, as you can imagine why. And this is an initiative that they wanted to be done to beautify the outside of Waite. I do think it's important to point out because we usually don't hire landscaping companies. We handle that within our own department. The next service agreements, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreements for the 1920 school year. These are for special education. I think it's important to point out that almost all of these are actually pass-through funds for private schools. There are a couple on here, such as the agreement with the ESC of Cuyahoga County, which services Medina students directly, but the bulk of these, such as the Director of Student Services at Medina Christian Academy, are just pass-through funds. Number 10 is, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreements for the 1920 school year with extended school year services if needed for the summer of 2019. These costs are all estimated costs. You can see many of them say are plus extended school year services, so there are services during the school year that head into the summer. But we're already looking forward to the 2020 school year. These were approved by the board similar time last year. These figures aren't necessarily set because it's dependent upon students' IEPs and their needs. If there are funds needed beyond what's presented here, we would come back to the board in order to ask for an extended contract. Number 11, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the stipend payments for Michelle Mardovin and Michelle Mueller in the amount of $320 each from the University of Akron for being cooperating teachers for University of Akron student teachers during the spring semester of 19. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the stipend payments to Wade Chapman and Adrian Rastak in the amount of $75 each, and payments to Shannon Duncan, Victoria Medlock, Michelle Mazingo, and Julie Wayand in the amount of $150 each from Baldwin Wallace University for being cooperating teachers for Baldwin Wallace University student teachers during the spring semester of 19. And one last stipend payment. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the stipend payment to Mandy Riegler in the amount of $250 from Grand Canyon University for being a cooperating teacher for a Grand Canyon University student teacher during the spring semester of 19. We have a few athletic field trips on the agenda. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following overnight field trips in compliance with Policy 2340 for the 1920 school year. These are overnight trips that will be occurring within the state of Ohio, and these are trips that these athletic programs have taken in the past. And I do want to make sure I point out that these are for the summer coming up next month, as well as the beginning of August. And then the last piece, and the really long piece, is personnel. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following personnel recommendations pending completion of all requirements per the Department of Human Resources and board policy. The reason why this is so long, the last board meeting, all of the supplemental contracts were non-renewed, which is regular business. So now we'd like to recommend those positions be filled by the following employees for the upcoming school year. Also, we have many volunteers that are on here. And a few important things I want to make sure to point out is that we have a few retirements on this agenda. David Bradley is retiring as the Claggett Middle School Industrial Technology teacher with 20 years of service to the district. Mr. Bradley started his teaching career at Medina High School in 1999, teaching various industrial technology and shop classes. In 2011, Mr. Bradley transferred to Claggett due to a reduction in the high school program. Mr. Bradley enjoyed Claggett so much that he chose to stay at the building when an opportunity presented itself to move back to Medina High School. Mr. Bradley ends his career as having helped the middle school change the instructional program with a new program known as Project Lead the Way, which has been well received by students. Bonnie Coughlin is retiring with 29 years of service to Medina City Schools as a speech-language pathologist. Bonnie has 39 total years in education. Bonnie worked at Medina County MRDD before moving to Medina City Schools in '91. Bonnie was originally hired as the SLP at Canavan, where she worked from '91 to 2010. The last few years after the two new elementary buildings opened, Bonnie has split time between Canavan and Fenn Elementary Schools. Bonnie is looking forward to less stress and a possible career change in retirement. Connie Zimmerman holds the distinction of being the current record holder for the longest serving employee in the district. Connie began her career with Medina City Schools as a crossing guard at the intersection of Union Street and Weymouth Road in 1977. She took the job to be on the same schedule as her son, who was starting school at Fenn Elementary. Connie served as a crossing guard for 9 years before moving indoors to the Medina High School cafeteria. Connie is now retiring with 42 years of service, 33 years working in the Medina High School kitchen. Connie wanted to make this decision after the school year ended to avoid the spotlight. We tried to get Connie to attend the board meeting, but she did not want any special recognition, but I'm giving it to her anyways. We're going to do what we can to recognize her 42 years of experience. That's quite a dedication to the students of Medina City Schools. We will be seeing her over the course of the next many years as she plans to sub, which is great because we have a difficult time finding great subs. To have her come back and still be a part of our district is pretty special.
I'd like to make a motion to approve these action items.
Can I second that?
Yes, you can. Board discussion on the superintendent's action items?
Mr. Sable, I just wanted to mention in item 12, you referenced Michelle Mozingo. It's actually Michael Mozingo.
I like the name Michelle.
For item 5, the textbook adoption, I just wanted to also remind everyone that because this is an AP class, that the book is selected by the AP committee there, or the AP board. Thank you. The AP board tells us which books we have to select, and they are college textbooks, in case anyone was wondering.
And just to add, that's for us to be able to maintain our AP designation.
Any other board discussion? Any discussion from the community on the superintendent's action items? Seeing none, Mr. Chambers.
Ms. Parkers,
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood,
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore,
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik,
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Thank you.
Yes, Jim.
Okay.
One more personnel item for this evening. The following co-curricular appointment is being recommended for the 1920 school year, and that's for Tyler Skidmore as choir director.
I make a motion to approve action item H.
I'll second.
Board discussion? Any discussion from the community? Thank you. Seeing none. Mr. Chambers.
Ms. Pavlik,
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst,
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood,
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore,
Abstain.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Thank you.
Public/community participation. Community members wishing to address the board are asked to abide by the following guidelines. Attendees shall register their intention to participate in the public portion of the meeting upon their arrival at the meeting. After those that have registered have spoken, if time allows, the board president will ask for public participation from all other attendees. Please state your name, address, and your affiliation. Please keep comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak have been heard. And all statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. Is there any member from the community wish to address the school board at this time? Seeing none. I would like to make a motion at this time to go into executive session to consider the employment, compensation of a public employer or official, to discuss with the board's legal counsel disputes involving the board that are the subject of pending or imminent court action, to prepare for, conduct, or review negotiation or bargaining sessions with employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment, and the consideration of confidential information related to the marketing plan, specific business strategy, production techniques, trade secrets, or personal financial statements of an applicant for economic development assistance, or to negotiations with other political subdivisions respecting requests for economic development assistance.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers.
Yes, Mr. Ross,
Aye.
Mrs. Skidmore,
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood,
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst,
Aye.
Mrs. Pavlik.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our meeting. There won't be any action taken after executive session. Thank you.